can music do more than move us? Can it unmake us? Across history and culture, whispers persist of melodies that induce madness, frequencies that disorient, and songs that seemingly drive people to their deaths. Is it coincidence or covert design? Could subtle vibrations and tonal structures embedded in our favorite tracks and film scores be manipulating our minds without us knowing? And what if some of the most unsettling moments in pop culture are not accidents, but artifacts of an ancient science rediscovered by modern hands? This investigation follows the eerie thread from sonic folklore to military labs, from sacred chants to sinister soundtracks, searching for the hidden architecture of sound that both heals and harms. It began, as many of the most enduring legends do, in the foggy ambiguity between fact and folklore, a piano in a dim Hungarian room, a note struck in sorrow, and a melody that would be whispered about for decades. The 1933 composition Gloomy Sunday by Rezo Sires is often cited as one of the earliest examples of music accused of killing its listeners, allegedly linked to dozens of suicides across Europe and the United States. The song carried a heavy emotional charge, its lyrics steeped in despair and finality. People were found with the sheet music in their laps, or the record spinning endlessly as the authorities arrived. Newspapers, hungry for sensational stories during dark economic times, ran with it. But what if it wasn't just despair? What if it was also frequency? Sires himself died by suicide decades later, adding a chilling echo to the legend. In an age before neuroacoustic science, no one asked whether this piece might unwittingly exploit psychological vulnerabilities. The idea that a song could destabilize human psyche may seem like tabloid fuel, but the deeper truth may lie in how emotion, frequency, and cultural belief collide. Was Gloomy Sunday merely a tragedy in minor chords or an accidental trigger for the already fragile minds of a post-war world? Modern science tells us that sound is more than an aesthetic experience. It's energy, pressure, and vibration. Certain frequencies can trigger nausea, headaches, panic, even hallucinations. Infrasound, low frequency, sound below 20 Hz, imperceptible to the human ear, has been studied for its disorienting, anxiety-inducing effects. Military research from the Cold War period explored using these low-frequency sounds as crowd control or psychological warfare tools. They called them sonic weapons. One chilling example comes from 1970s NATO experiments, where controlled infrasound was used to create disorientation in test subjects. Later, classified reports from Eastern Bloc nations revealed similar efforts, sound not as entertainment, but as invisible control. This line of inquiry culminated in Cold War era research that laid the foundation for the LAD long-range acoustic device and similar high-decibel directed energy weapons. But beyond hardware, the real frontier is subtlety, sounds woven into music or media that trigger discomfort without conscious detection. Could there be music that, through its sonic profile alone, shifts mood, disrupts attention, or embeds anxiety? If so, are we listening to it daily without even knowing? One such example is the LRADS, or long-range acoustic device. Officially developed for naval use, LRADs emit focused beams of high-decibel sound capable of disabling a target at a distance. Protesters across the world have described intense pain, disorientation, and lingering tinnitus after exposure. These devices have been deployed at political demonstrations from New York to Warsaw, often leaving victims with temporary hearing loss or balance issues. Though these technologies are visible and documented, what remains less discussed are the covert applications, auditory signatures embedded in broadcasts, announcements, or even background music. Intelligence reports from the 2000s hinted at research into emotional entrainment, using sound patterns to guide crowd behavior or mood states. Some experts warn that music structure, rhythm, harmony, decay can be engineered to stimulate neural pathways linked to compliance or aggression. The question is no longer whether sound can influence the body, but how deeply it can be programmed to manipulate the mind. Could the right harmonic pairing in a melody trigger despair? Could overlapping frequencies subtly bend a person's mood toward destruction? And what if this has already been weaponized quietly, artfully, and without consent? Music's emotional power is undeniable. Studies in neuromusicology show that minor keys, slow tempos, and descending melodic lines are consistently associated with sadness. But beyond composition, there lies another layer: binaural beats and brainwave entrainment. By playing two tones of slightly differing frequency in each ear, the brain hears a third tone. This beat can purportedly influence neural rhythms. In clinical settings, binaural beats are shown to modulate anxiety, focus, and even states of consciousness. But researchers have also raised red flags. In 2019, a European psychoacoustic study revealed that specific entrainment frequencies, particularly in the delta and theta ranges, could induce heightened vulnerability to suggestion and emotional instability. Meanwhile, biohacking communities have begun experimenting with musical tracks encoded with these tones to induce trance or elation. What happens when these techniques are inserted, deliberately or otherwise, into commercial music? Some investigative journalists have claimed that background scores in certain Hollywood thrillers subtly use binaural layer to heighten tension without the audience's awareness. Could this be an artistic flourish or a test run for cognitive manipulation? The internet age birthed new legends. Lavender town syndrome, for example, in which children exposed to the soundtrack of a Pokemon game reportedly fell ill, became suicidal, or experienced hallucinations. Though later debunked as urban legend, the audio itself, eerie, detuned, shrill, has been dissected by audio engineers who noted strange anomalies, frequencies bordering on those known to cause discomfort. In one analysis, the tone clusters resembled those used in aversive conditioning tests, further fueling speculation. While no deaths were confirmed, Lavender Town lives on as an example of digital-era audio paranoia, a fear that sound can bypass reason and go straight to the unconscious mind. Fringe researchers have drawn parallels between this phenomenon and the Wilhelm effect, a term coined to describe auditory motifs in horror films that create unease regardless of volume or context. Hollywood has often toyed with this power, embedding high-frequency cues or low drones in soundtracks that heighten dread, often without conscious detection. Is it accidental artistry, or has the industry stumbled upon a form of acoustic priming, preparing the mind for emotional collapse through mere tone? Another infamous case is the so-called My Way curse in the Philippines. Karaoke bars, where Frank Sinatra's ballad is a staple, have seen multiple violent incidents, fights breaking out mid-performance, some ending fatally. Analysts often cite social factors: macho posturing, alcohol, cultural tension. Yet the myth persists. There is something about that song that draws blood. Recent ethnographic studies suggest that the song's pacing, key changes, and lyrical defiance may amplify existing psychological tensions in high-stress environments. The rhythmic build-up and tonal bravado mirror cues often used in combat training to instill assertiveness or dominance. Intriguingly, media psychologists have drawn comparisons between the My Way incidents and the aggressive crowd reactions to certain military anthems or fight songs, compositions designed to stir confrontation. Could auditory elements in mainstream music unconsciously mimic these emotional triggers? And could film composers and record producers, knowingly or not, be embedding similar aggressive tonal patterns into scores to elicit strong crowd reactions? And then there are more speculative tales, like Project Sanguine, a US Navy program to use ultra-low frequencies to communicate with submerged submarines. The technology relied on extremely low-frequency elves capable of penetrating deep into the earth and sea. While its primary aim was military communication, some suggest that these frequencies, when modulated correctly, can also influence human emotion or cognition. Research papers declassified in the 1980s revealed experimental ELF exposure tests on lab animals, noting elevated stress hormones and erratic behavior. Fringe theorists have speculated on broader applications, that ELF transmissions could be piggybacked onto mass media or infrastructure networks, subtly shifting population mood. These claims echo the concerns raised during the MKUltra era, when psychological manipulation via sensory stimulus was actively explored. While no official link has been proven, the convergence of ELF technology, mass broadcast systems, and an emotionally volatile public raises uncomfortable questions. Could sound frequencies engineered for war also seep into our living rooms through film soundtracks, news jingles, or even streaming services? Sound has long been used in ritualistic, spiritual, and occult settings. The ancient Sumerians believed certain chants could invoke gods or open rifts to other worlds. Tibetan monks use harmonic throat singing to induce trance states. Indigenous shamans across the Americas employ drumming rhythms to navigate spiritual journeys. In each case, the sonic structure, repetition, resonance, and rhythm serves as a vehicle to alter consciousness. Modern neuroscience now supports this. Repetitive rhythmic stimuli have been shown to synchronize brainwave activity and induce altered states. Some researchers suggest that ceremonial acoustics may have been humanity's first form of neurological engineering. Hollywood, too, borrows these ancient cues intentionally or otherwise. Chants, sustained low drones, and cyclical beats are layered into film scores to evoke awe or dread. In horror and science fiction especially, composers often blend synthetic and tribal elements to create an uncanny familiarity, a sound that feels ancient yet artificial. Could this be a deliberate invocation of our primal memory? And does repeated exposure to these sonic motifs do more than just entertain, perhaps shaping perception in ways we're only beginning to understand? In fiction, The Ring took this notion further, media as a cursed object, the videotape acting like an audiovisual sigil. It kills, not directly, but through suggestion, mood, resonance. The viewer dies after experiencing a sequence of sounds and images designed to unmoor the psyche. What feels like fiction may in fact mirror centuries-old beliefs in cursed melodies, sonic rituals, and manipulative frequency. The film's audio design, crackling, static, droning tones, whispering phrases, was intentionally crafted to induce unease. Sound engineers used filtered voice fragments and backward-masked audio to enhance psychological discomfort. Scholars of media semiotics have long argued that modern horror relies not just on visuals, but deeply rooted sound symbolism, shrieking strings, reversed breathing, and sub-bass rumbles to bypass cognitive defenses. Increasingly, experimental filmmakers and video artists are incorporating audio hexing, sound structures that mimic ritual invocations. In this light, The Ring is more than a film. It's a dramatized reflection of very real anxieties. That sound, layered in symbol and frequency, might carry more power than we dare acknowledge. The boundaries between fiction and method dissolve when emotional architecture becomes sonic weaponry. Across case studies, the thread is clear. Humans are susceptible to auditory influence, sometimes dangerously so. While most killer songs turn out to be urban myth or tragic coincidence, a growing body of research into sonic weaponry, neuroacoustic response, and the psychoistic manipulation of emotion suggests that the line between myth and mechanism is thinner than we dare imagine. Institutions, once dismissive of these claims, now allocate research grants into sonic cognition and frequency-based therapeutics. What begins as curiosity often spirals into deeper questions about autonomy, manipulation, and consent. If music can uplift or heal, can it also harm by design? In a media-saturated age, where music seeps into every crevice of our daily lives, from advertising jingles to film scores to algorithm-curated playlists, the potential for auditory influence becomes both a marvel and a menace. It forces us to reconsider every note, every chord progression, every hidden hum. Are we truly listening, or are we being tuned?